If you're looking for the best clothing deals in Salt Lake County, one place stands out for the price, quality, and the selection, and that's Zalzo. Zalzo is your destination for up to 70% off premium and mid-luxury brands every single day. Tucked just off of 3900 South in Murray, Zalzo carries the brands you actually want to wear at the prices you're happy to pay. Run over to our store today and see for yourself the weekly updates to the always impressive and expansive inventory of both adult and children's clothing. While you're here, don't forget to check out the weekly markdown racks with even steeper deals. Stuck on a work call? Go to Zalzo.com, that's ZALLZO.com for information and a listing of in-store deals. Zalzo, you'll come in just to look, but we know you'll leave hooked.
As our coach said, it's going to be a dogfight, but we are ready for that, and it's 90 minutes, we need to give everything, so yeah, we need to be locked in.
At the end of the day, the fans would see it, you know. We've been trying to represent them on the pitch, and we are going to give our 100% every single game for them. And
can't wait to get back and put on, the RSL jersey and in front of the fans that have been amazing support. Without them, without RSL, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. So I'm extremely grateful and I'm excited.
What's up, RSL Nation?
Welcome to the Royal Riot.
Salvas gets it away. Catranes, the square ball. Diego Luna! It's Diego Luna now trying to turn. Luna! Oh, it's in! What a goal! A lot of space for Johnny Russell. Johnny Russell! His first start for Real Salt Lake. His first goal for Real Salt Lake. One hole! Magnificent from Real Salt Lake. And Noel Kaliskan with the best goal he's probably ever scored.
Oh, turns, overlap on the right side. Gonzalez! Yes!
Brian Ojeda. Here's a Ghana, third time. Is it a charm? Malagon, Luna! Yes! Cabral has been insatiable in goal. Zuniga, no! Cabral, the hero! And this guy's good! They have found a keeper in Salt Lake City!
Welcome, everybody, to the Royal Riot. Yes, again, I am getting hosting duty far more than I was, they're paying me for. So that shout out to Hayden. I'm here again with Maddie. Maddie, how are we feeling? I know you've been busy.
I'm having such an incredible experience in Utah trying to find an apartment. I love it. Everyone should get to do this.
I heard the housing market is so amazing here, so you must be loving every moment of it. But
it's if anyone out there can get a piece of legislature through that the advertised price is what they actually want per month, and it's not like, oh yeah, it's $1,100, but also we charge you for this, $30 for parking. All this other stuff, and it ends up being $1,500. Yeah, it's a nightmare.
But we're happy. We're so happy that Maddie is back in Utah. I especially am happy that Maddie's here. We had a game. MLS is back, baby. I am so excited. I don't know about you, Maddie, but I have been bored on Saturday nights a little bit, and it hasn't really been. I couldn't really, in Utah, we kind of had a dead winter too, not like that many snow days. So we've just been dying for some soccer. So how did you like this beginning of MLS coming back? All the excitement, all the games. How are you feeling about that, Maddie?
Well, for me, I missed last week's recording because I was driving from Kentucky. So first of all, I got to Utah on Tuesday late after driving through a snowstorm in Wyoming that included overturned tractor trailers and cars that were turned perpendicularly to the guardrail, completely blocking one lane. And just as I drove by in the fast lane, I'm like, you realize nobody behind me can stop, right? Like, you're about to get T-boned. But people are just like, and the guy literally just goes, oh. I'm like, all right, mate, good luck with that, I guess. So I went to training on Wednesday. And, the first thing I did on Tuesday when I got here was, of course, go to the team store and check out the new kit, which is incredible.
Beautiful
if you
kit.
haven't seen it live, please go look at it quickly. Spoke to Diego Luna for a few minutes. He was there in the store. They said that the kit is selling extremely well and that like 90% of the personalizations have been Luna, which is pretty sweet. And I'm immediately like, oh yeah, get one while he's still here for 6 months. And they're like,
for sure.
Like, he's sitting right on the other side of the wall. I'm like, oh, hey, what's up, Deej? So then spoke with them for a few minutes. And then Wednesday I went to training, which was probably the training session that will forever after be known as the red training, where we lost 3 starters in like 35 minutes.
Gosh.
And just, I know that there's a lot of commentary or discourse like, what are they doing in training? Like, why are they getting hurt so much? They were 3 of the freakiest, you'll never see it happen again in your life, injuries I've ever seen. They were all ball related. It wasn't contact. It wasn't, that they were being run to death and making fatigue injuries, without naming names. Like, one of the players took a shot and tweaked his knee. It happens. One of them blocked his shot and tweaked his knee. It happens. And the other one got hit in the eyeball with a ball. And I thought he'd gotten kicked in the face because you wouldn't think a ball could do that much damage, but my word. So it turned into obviously a very juggled lineup. I'm not going to say that RSL fielded backup players in case Jason Kreis is listening to this podcast. I had that ready to go if RSL had been able to pull the win out. But, I, for one, and I only got to watch the match live. I'm having Apple TV difficulty, so I was only able to watch it live. The Vancouver stadium was under construction, so instead of the press box being at the midfield stripe and looking down, we were way over in the back corner, looking diagonally and down across. So I will yield to anybody who says that my take on a player performance was wrong, but I thought that the team that came out there played extremely well. I will say that the vibes at training on Thursday were better than anything I saw all last year. The music was playing, which I said, I guess you could ask Pablo, if I said it once, I said it 1 billion times last year. Like, why isn't the music playing? The team felt different. The temperature felt different. Everybody was, straight vibes, happy to be out there. And I, for one, was very happy with what I saw from a lot of the young players.
Yeah,
what
that's
did you
great.
think of the game?
No, we'll definitely go into all of that. We need to do a match recap. The one bit of official news I wanted to say before the match recap, because I love this man so much. And, we all wish he had a better career, but unfortunately through injuries. But Real Monarchs, so Real Salt Lake's B team per se, announced that Jordan Allen, I'm going to just say club legend. I love Jordan Allen so much.
Yes. No,
but
100%.
he has done so much for the club as well, even after his injury. Sky was the limit for Jordan Allen before, a series of injuries. But Jordan Allen and Phil Cousins, who were the U16 head coach and the U18 head coach, are now the assistant coaches for Real Monarchs. And I believe they put some intern coaches for the academy. But the Real Monarchs are going to start their season, I believe, March 1st. So this upcoming week, we should probably get some updates on what the roster is going to look like further along this week. But, one thing about Real Monarchs, if you wanted to watch Luka Moisa, you could have all last year. If you wanted to watch Aiden, you could have last year. And these guys that are going to play for the Monarchs this year will probably see, one day, and I have some players in mind, see first team minutes in the future. But a big thing, what Maddie just talked about, availability. Availability really impacted this game and the result. A lot of these players, I would just say our front three is probably not the front three that we'll see come Saturday. But we have Emeka Nelly out. We have Juan Jose Arias out with an injury, but also he might have the same visa issues as well that the other players are having. We have questionable, which is Kobe Henry, Lucis Engel, Diego Luna, and Victor Olatunji. Immigration is Juan Manuel Sanabria, Morgan Gigalovogi, pardon me, and then Stein Spearings. So the immigration I heard, and this has been reported by ESPN 700 with a interview with Kurt Schmidt today, is that Morgan should be available on Saturday. Now, things can happen in training. And Abria should be available, and also Stein Spearing should be available. So we're getting 3 new faces into, it could be the starting lineup. It could also just be on the bench because some of these guys haven't been with the team for a long time. Yeah, I know Stein Spearings was with the team in Portugal, but that's pretty much it. He hasn't ever been here in the United States other than his medical. I think he had to do his medical here per MLS rules. So that was the availability. The lineup was Cabral in goal. We had Yedlin as the right center back, and then Justin Glad as the center back, and then Junkwa. We had Gozo as the right wing back. We had Luka Moisa, who we're going to talk about. We had Noel Caliscan and Alex Catranas as that left wing back as well. Zach Booth was part of the front 3, Ari Piol and Aiden Hazarkani. Now, I'll say with subs, Ruben Masalas was on the bench. It was surprising because there hasn't been any club news about him signing a first team deal, but it could have been a short-term loan as well. I know that Engel was out, of course, and then also you have Sanabria, who's a left wingback who was out. So it was kind of, break glass, we need someone there. And Griffin Dillon and Tyler Wolf, who I was actually surprised didn't see the game. We also had Mason Stajuhar. How did you like the starting lineup, Maddie, compared to with all the injuries, with all the availability?
With everyone that was injured, I was fine with it. And honestly, the players that I thought played well in the preseason matches we were able to see, and then also the reports that we were given, I think probably the most surprising inclusion for most RSL fans, casual or not, would have been Luka Moisa. But if you remember in preseason, a lot of the RSL goals started with him. He had an incredible preseason. So while he may have been there because Stein Spearings wasn't available or because Emeka wasn't available, I also think he earned his spot. So I was very happy with what started. I'll clean up just one little thing there. Ruben Masalas was on one of those short-term call-ups. So, and I'll also tell you that he was supposed to come in and he would have gotten minutes at the end if Yedlin hadn't been hurt. And they had to bring in, I believe it was Philip Quinton. Yeah. So if Quinton hadn't had to come in for Yedlin, they wanted to bring Masalas in for a few minutes. And I'm very excited about Masalas. I've spoken about him before. Every time somebody says we don't have left backs that are coming up through the Monarchs, I talk about him. He had a great season last year. I don't have numbers in front of me, but I think he had 4 goals and 4 assists or 5 and 5. Pretty good production. And then, I've been high on, obviously, Moisa was the first RSL player I ever interviewed. Aiden Hazarkani, I talked to him last year before he got his sub minutes, so it was great to see him get his first start. I was excited to see that Sergi Salans got to get some time. Obviously, we'll get into the game and how it went. Starting lineup-wise, I couldn't have been happier.
See, I only have one critique, which is why didn't Dom start as the right wing back and Gozo up top? Because I will say this, you saw a very inexperienced front 3 in Booth, Piol, Hazarkani. And maybe it could have been Gozo. Maybe also you could have put Tyler Wolf up top as well as that right winger. But do you think that could have changed the game if we had maybe one of those guys rather than Aiden? I love Aiden. I do think that he is, a rising star from the academy that will play a significant impact on this team. But do you think that could have maybe impacted the game? Just having Dom in there instead of Gozo as right wing back?
So I don't want to fall into the trap of readjudicating the match based on the result, because now we know how it went.
Yeah.
I'll say that I have been expecting that Gozo was going to be playing right wing back. So it was fine for me seeing him there. If I was going to put him somewhere other than there and have Dom at the wing back, which not only do I think that's a good idea, I specifically asked Pablo last year if we were ever going to try that. Last year, I asked Pablo, would you consider, or has there been discussion about on matches where either because of the matchup on the wings or because Katranis is injured and we're putting Junka at left wing. If Junka's at left wing, couldn't Marchuk play the right back spot the way that Katranis did last year, where he's got a lot more offensive runs up and down that channel? And then you could push Gozo into that striker spot. If I were to change the lineup, I would have and did that and put Dominic at that right wing back spot. I think my predilection would have been to put Gozo in Ari's spot, not Hezarkhani's. But that's just
interesting. No, yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. If we go through the game too, I'm going to talk about Hayden's comments, but Ari Piol, I would say this. He had a goal that a lot of people said could have been offsides, the angle that I was really frustrated during that time. First off, MLS didn't show us the recap for about a good 3 minutes. And I was with my friend and my buddy, and we were just screaming like, show us the recap, show us the recap. And when they did, they showed us that recap of like them coming like towards the screen, which is the worst for offsides. I'm like, I can't even tell from this angle. But Peel did have a goal. And I do think he did create some opportunities. Now, the one opportunity that I believe if you even ask Ari, he could have done better with his decision making was when he got one-on-one with the keeper, kind of outside the box towards that left side. And he really could have played it to either, I believe, Booth or Aiden. I think Aiden had a better shot, to be honest, but Booth was there as well. If he just would have passed that ball back, which I bet looking back, he would want to do as well. Aiden would have had a clear, wide open net, goalkeeper way to the left. But who's your standout player, Maddie, in this game? And I know you're probably going to say Moisa, so I'm going to tee that up for you. But who do you really think stood out?
I'm going to say Aiden Hezarkhani.
Really?
So I think that the best player on the pitch for RSL for 90 minutes was Noel Caliskin. I'll start there. I'll hold my hand up and say that I'm a fan. I'm not going to apologize. I've been banging his drum for 2 years now. No one was happier than me when he started getting, well, maybe other than him, when he started getting minutes at D-mid, because I think he really helps keep the lines connected with his communication, but also with his direct play. He's got a lot of skills in his pocket that bring to the game. But stand out because I was looking specifically hardest at Booth, Hezarkhani, and Moisa. I think Hezarkhani, the poise and belief that he showed from the very whistle.
His corner kicks were great, too.
Better than some other people who came in after him. I'll say that. I'll also say that I have all of the admiration in the world for a young player. He's either 18 or 19 to take an offensive free kick in the first minute of your first start on the road against the Western Conference champions, not a slouch keeper, and beat the wall and just narrowly miss over. Maybe Takioka gets it, maybe he doesn't. But man, I was just impressed with Aiden the whole time he was out there.
Yeah, for sure. I would also say Yedlin had a really good game before he was subbed out. A lot of the commentators that I was listening to, we all hear the same commentators now that it's on Apple TV, but they were praising Yedlin as well. I will say that the subs, I didn't think had a huge impact in this game. Pablo Ruiz, he got in there. Sergi Salones as well. Dominic Marchuk. Was there any other subs? Oh, Philip Quinton, of course, and Jesus. But they only had, about 15 minutes of play. How did you feel about the substitution patterns? Did you think that they were going for the tying goal, or it didn't really help the game?
I definitely think they wanted it. And I think that, that they were going for it to the best of their abilities. But I think that when they came in, now you've got a lot of players. You bring in more players who haven't played together with the other players. Mm-hmm. And it's while Vancouver is in the position of being able to sit back deep and counter, which transitional is what Vancouver wants at that time. So I don't hold the result against any of the subs who came in. I think some people maybe didn't make as much of their opportunity as they could have. And I think that they would hold their hands up and say that too. Obviously, a sub comes in, you want them to change the game. I was selfishly hoping for Griffin Dillon to come in instead of Ruiz because I figured like we're already young. Let's bring some bite into the middle without, letting it go the other way. And I am a huge Griffin Dillon fan. So I don't think, again, I don't want to re-adjudicate based on the result. Like we know that RSL lost 1-0. So it's easy to say, well, maybe this would have been better than that. At the time, I think we're still suffering from, like I said, the red training where there was just the guys that should have been subbed in to make a difference were instead tasked with starting, then everybody's tired. Everybody's worn out because it's the first game of the season. No matter what you do in preseason, no one's ready to go 90 in the first game unless they're, their name is Paulie Rothrock, who didn't go 90. I guess I should point that out. He came in as a sub. We'll talk about him later. But the big thing is I thought that the players who started, I think almost everybody showed that they belonged. And I think that none of them have anything to hang their head about. I think that they would all tell you there were things they could have done better. I was disappointed in some of Ari's decision making, but I'm looking at the match from a bird's eye view. So it's easy for me to say that. I don't know what he's seeing on the field or what people are yelling at. And when I say the field, I will say that of all the surfaces in this league that I have walked around on, that turf in Vancouver hurt my knees after 5 minutes of walking on it in Doc Martens. And I can't imagine what it must be like to play on it. And I did see players slipping on it.
I do want to stand up for Ari a little bit because he is our youngest U22 player. And I think he got a lot of flack from some people in the fan base. I'm not going to say all, but he wasn't, he's a developing U22. And when you look at the league and the roster profiles that they put out, I look at every single one of the teams in MLS, and they at least have one U22 that is promising, but is not contributing day in and day out. And so to hit on all U22s, it's very rare to have all 4 U22s play plus like your 2 DPs or your 3 U22s and your 3 DPs all on a starting lineup. There's a lot of TAM players that play over U22 players. But I do think Piol, he is growing. I do like what he did. I already said it. I will say, I think I could have saw the Marchuk and Pablo Ruiz sub a little bit earlier. But, hindsight's 2020. I do want to debunk, and I was actually proud that the MLS commentator debunked it as well. It was weird. There was one analyst that was like, they're playing Moisa over Pablo Ruiz. This is like telling for the Argentinian. And then the commentator said, well, I actually do know that Pablo Ruiz is coming off a little bit of a knock. And that is probably the reason why we saw Moisa. And I will say this. I said this in our, chat. If you're going to play young, don't risk, Paulo Ruiz and, getting a knock to someone else, maybe like Lucas Engel. Just rest them because really this was a game that we showed our promising youth and they did show up. And just like you said, there's a lot of potential for a lot of these guys. If I'm a Vancouver fan, I am coming out of this win like, yay, we won. If you saw the goal, it wasn't really a goal that was going with the flow of Vancouver. It was more against, like, they weren't right. It wasn't a lot of momentum towards that goal. It was kind of, I wouldn't say a fluke goal, but it was a lot of, some errors that happened. And then, against the play, if that makes sense. But if I'm a Vancouver fan, what?
It was against the run of play. You could say that. It was a transitional goal.
Yeah, for sure. But if I'm a Vancouver fan too, they're not starting the season too hot. They tied 1-1 to a team in Costa Rica, and they won, I would say barely, to a very young Real Salt Lake squad. So take the win, Vancouver Whitecaps. I am surprised, and I loved what they did last season. But at the same time, if I was a fan, I would be hesitant for the performances. I do want to say that Vancouver did have the same issue that we had with some visas and some new players coming in, and that really plagued the entire league. Like if you saw the availability report from MLS, there were so many. It was one of the longest availability reports I've ever seen with visa issues. What did they say? Not due to injury. That's what they put in parentheses. So a lot things that happen. I do want to read Hayden's thoughts real fast. He did say, I love the effort from the young players, specifically Aiden and Luca. I hope they can both find minutes moving forward. Extremely concerned with Peel if Olatunji is out for a bit longer. Would like to move Gozo into the 9, kind of what Maddie said. Morgan right wing and Dom right wing back if Olatunji is not available. Do not want to see any more from Peel.
Come
I
on,
think
man.
that's a big statement. That's too much.
That's harsh.
Yeah.
I did say on Twitter, like somebody tweeted and said, I never want Ari is not MLS level, or that I never want to see Ari on RSL again. He can play on the Monarchs. And I was like, did you think his goal was onside? Because to me, and this is something I want to talk to Dunny about, or someone at the league, because every year it seems like there's commands or directives issued to the referee crews that we know nothing about for a few weeks until we start seeing it called again and again. And they're like, yeah, we're trying to crack down on. Last year, it was players swarming the ref or waving their arms around. I remember I think Luna and Vera got yellow cards in like the first couple of games for going like this. And they were like, yeah, we're cracking down on that. And then like 6 games later, it's right back to the way it was last year. But so on the goal, I don't know if we want to like specifically recap the goal that RSL should have scored in the first half when it was 0-0. Moisa and Hezarkhani kind of play 1-2 with each other, give and goes. Moisa drives a diagonal switch to Katranas, and it wasn't a dink. He drove this thing. Katranas takes it down the left side and then bends a perfect ball to Ari Piol, who slides in and one times it with his right foot, scores. Linesman has his flag up. Now, the commentators and the people around me in the press box were like, Ari was off. And I'm like, okay, he wasn't. There's no way he was off, because I was watching him as soon as Moisa hit that ball, and he was definitely on. So it must be Katranas in the buildup. I went back. I tweeted the best picture that I could find of exactly as Moisa is striking the ball. The lines on that turf are not good to definitely differentiate. We don't have a straight side-to-side view, and for whatever reason, they decided not to give us the VAR line or the offside line, where it shows exactly where the players were when it happened. But I'll say this, it was so close either way, right? So I support RSL. I think that Katranas was onside. I think that he was even. I believe that. If you support Vancouver, you're naturally going to take the opposite side, and that's okay. But please be the first person to tell me that it wasn't extremely close.
Yeah. So
right? No one will say that. And every time, what have we always been told? If it's close, you keep your flag down and let VAR look at it and let VAR decide. And if the linesman had done what we are all used to seeing ever since VAR started, what we're used to seeing is the linesman keeping their flag down. And the linesmen keep their flag down when it's clearly off, because, oh no, just keep your flag down, just keep your flag down. This was so razor tight, and he raised his flag. And I will say also that I think he was trailing the play. I think that Moisa's switch surprised him, and he was behind it, which makes it more difficult to see if it's onside or off. But spilled milk, it was called offside, and VAR couldn't overturn it or even ask Drew to go take a look at it, even though I think he should have.
And I don't want to call out Hayden, right? But if
I'll do
that
it.
would have gone our way, do we think people wouldn't be this harsh on Peel? Just that little centimeter.
No.
He would have scored that goal. Of course not. So
100%. Now I'll say I would still be criticizing his movement and spacing. So as I'm watching him, I'm looking, and again, gosh, I'm so lucky and fortunate that I'm at the match and I'm not a slave to, or a prisoner to, the camera and the director in the booth who's trying to decide what you should get to watch. I'm watching all of the players all of the time. And what I would like to see more of from Ari is opening space for other people to run into. And I don't think that this was his best example of doing that. Also, there were a couple plays where he was trailing, getting back on side. And that makes me mental. Like, get back on side and then put your head down and take a breath, because the ball could come back at any time, and he got caught with that at least once. There was one time that I saw it. I shouldn't say at least once, because I don't remember that happening more than once. But I remember once where I was like, get back on side, dude. But I didn't think he had a poor game. I just don't think it was his best game. And I think that if he had scored, all anybody would say is he scored a goal. But I'd rather he had an assist on that play earlier where he was way out to the left and he tried to finish from a narrow angle instead of just putting it onto the penalty spot. I thought that it was Gozo, but if you say it was Hezarkhani, then it was Hezarkhani, because like I said, I couldn't really see.
Yeah.
I
believe
thought that should have been a goal.
there was someone on like around the top of the box, but that really just shows, you got too excited. Really.
And,
Like there's no way to put it.
and he also was pressuring the back line. He's fast, which makes center backs uncomfortable, which keeps them back, which helps everybody with spacing. He challenged the Vancouver keeper early on and threw him off so much that he bungled a ball that he usually catches on like a high ball. And then I think it like bounced around and came to Moisa, and Moisa was so close. Like he hit this one-time shot that I've seen him score with the Monarchs so many times, and he just didn't catch it clean. And I think if it had happened like 10 minutes later in the game when he had his feet under him a little bit more, I think Moisa would have scored there.
Yeah. No, I'm really proud of the youngsters. I think a lot of us are, especially Hayden. I do want to finish his thoughts. He did say that he really liked the back three. I think a lot of us did. It's really good to see experience back there. It was great to see Yedlin. It was great to see Sam. The goal was disappointing. It felt so soft compared to how well they played. Agreed. Gozo did well to stop the counter. Then Luca and Kalaskan seemed to be ball watching and not remark AZ. AZ Jackson, I believe, is the goal scorer. Overall,
Correct.
It's rare to be happy in a loss, but we need to get everyone going. Really, this is a result that I think that Pablo said that it's going to be, the group's not all here. They're not all here, all training together. We have some injuries. We have some visa stuff. And around match day 3, that is when I'm going to start to look at these lineups with more of a fine eye. But I'm proud of the boys, and I am looking forward to our season opener. Any final thoughts on the game, Maddie?
I just want to say one thing about what Hayden said, because I agree with so very much of what he said. I do not blame, and I don't think it's fair to blame anyone really for AZ's goal. Okay. If we could just take a second and go back and watch the play, AZ's coming down the left channel. He gets around Hezarkhani, who it looked to me like Hezarkhani's studs stuck in the carpet for a second. So AZ gets around him. AZ gets around a lot of guys. Okay. AZ is lightning fast. And I was greatly enjoying watching he and Gozo go at each other because their speed is so similar. And I'm a fan of both players. If you don't know AZ Jackson before today, I'll tell you that I watched him in St. Louis from their first season. So I've greatly enjoyed watching him play, and he's a gem of a human being. But he gets around Hezarkhani in that system. Yedlin immediately steps out. AZ goes towards the touchline. Or I'm sorry, not AZ. It's Tate Jackson. No, not Tate Jackson. Tate, help me out. The guy who got the assist. His first name, Johnson. Thank you. Johnson to Jackson. So Tate, thank you. Tate Johnson gets past Hezarkhani. He goes to the touchline and then blasts it back. And it took an insanely heavy deflection off of DeAndre Yedlin. Yedlin turns his back to the deflection so that he doesn't get a handball, and it kind of goes off his thigh butt area. Just sometimes the soccer gods aren't kind. It landed perfectly for AZ to one-time volley. Any player in the league, that's not an easy finish. Okay, I'm not saying that AZ's not top class. That was not an easy finish, and he hit it perfectly. And Kalaskan was close. Kalaskan did get a leg out, shot went over the leg and went past Rafa's outstretched arm. But it was a heavy deflection, man. Deflections happen. That's why coaches always tell you, put it in the mixer hard. Hit it hard in the mixer. It could bounce anywhere, right? How many times have we heard Mark Lowry say that? How many times have we heard Pablo say that? In this case, it worked out for them. But I don't think it's fair to dog the defenders, anyone defending on that play for such a heavy deflection that just fell perfectly to a player who was in a good spot. But, Moisa was closer to another player instead of the player that shot. But even if he had been closer to AZ, he would have been on the side that AZ wasn't shooting from. So I don't know what difference it would have made.
No, and honestly, I said it already, but Vancouver fans shouldn't say they dominated. They didn't. Okay, they even had a chance in the first half that was off of a lucky bounce. I think it was Justin Glad's, like Thomas Mueller or something, and it hit the post, right? It was pretty much a lucky bounce.
So the ball went off of Jay Glad. If you wanted to bag on any defender of the entire match, like that one, I thought Jay could have played cleaner. But, first match of the season. And who's going to punish you except for Thomas Mueller? And of course, it just happens to be him that gets it and immediately shoots. He hits the far post and it bounces out perfectly for an onrushing Brian White, who kicks it, almost out of the stadium. RSL was fortunate there. But then RSL, I thought RSL started strong. They had sustained pressure early. I don't think Vancouver was expecting it. RSL scored what, in my opinion, should have been a goal in the first half. I feel like RSL should have gone in 1-0. Okay. And then there was another big momentum shifter. And I think I started the press conference by saying, I swear I wanted this to be the year we never talked about refs, but we need to talk about the Sabi challenge.
Yes. Okay. This has to be one of the last things because I do want to get to the future. I'm excited for the home opener. But yes, that was on Luka Moisa, correct? And that was
Aiden.
Yes. Did he even get a card for that?
Okay. So here's what happens. The ball's coming towards RSL's end of the field as Aiden challenges with Emmanuel Sabi, U.S. international, Emmanuel Sabi, by the way. Sabi comes out with tries to do a swim move to get around him and rakes Aiden Hazarkani in the face and neck with his arm. I think that's what he got the yellow card for. But we'll have to wait and see when Drew Fisher, the same Drew Fisher who gave Kyle Beckerman a red card in the COVID bubble down in Orlando because Kyle flicked the ball to him as Drew Fisher was turning away. So the ball hit him in the back and he thought that Kyle drilled him with the ball and red carded him. Absolute softy. The ball goes, Luka runs in to play the ball and does so as Emmanuel Sabi is trying to get to play the ball. Point being, the ball was gone as Sabi comes in, same forearm into Moisa's jaw, throat area, which also could have been a yellow, also could have been a red. And then right foot, straight leg, studs exposed into Moisa's upper, not quite to his knee, but upper shin, studs exposed, leg outstretched with pace, with force. I do not know what planet that is not a red card on any league. I mean, when I grew up watching Liverpool in the 80s, that's a red card. You can't do that. And Moisa is lucky that he doesn't have 4 leg bones right now instead of 2 on that chin, because that's a horror challenge that you could give somebody. You could do a Mason Stidahar on that. He could have bones sticking out of his skin with that. We also need to get that boy some bigger shin guards. When I saw him laying on the ground, I was like, man, we got to protect this kid.
Hari Piol got a red card for almost the same challenge.
No, not even close. Not even close to the same challenge because Ari wasn't moving with pace. Ari turned around. Ari didn't go in late. Ari didn't lunge. Ari didn't hit the guy with his arm too. The second player with his arm too. Ari's leg wasn't straight out with his studs exposed. His studs raked the top of a guy's foot. That's
okay.
So the reason, I'm sorry, I don't mean to yell at you. The reason that came up today on Twitter is because when we were in the airport, I was talking about all the red cards that RSL got last year that came nowhere near that level of violence. Okay. There was Luna got 2 of them.
Yeah.
Ari got 1 and Olatunji got 1. None of them, to me, reached the threshold of violence we saw with that tackle. And I am flummoxed that was not a red card. And if the MLS Pro YouTube channel on Saturday does not come out and agree with me, I'm going to drive to wherever they are and talk to Greg Barkey myself, because that was unconscionable. That player should be suspended.
Yeah. We'll see if there's any, because a lot of times with these challenges too, there's do they announce it on Thursday or right before, I feel, match day? Sometime during the week, the repercussions of what happened, But there were definitely calls that did not go RSL's way, and I believe were really clear and obvious, So I want to move on. We have the home opener, which Maddie's going to be there. Am I right, Maddie?
Yes,
you
sir.
moved all the way back to Utah to go to just this, event. I'm going to be there. I'm so excited. This is one of my, I don't know. Sometimes I call it heaven. I really do. I have that nickname for the stadium. It's heaven's right there. Heaven's in Sandy. But a little bit of unofficial news and match preview. We have Seattle Sounders and our former DP coming into town with Albert Rusnak, who scored, I think it was 1-0. They scored they won just on a Albert Rusnak goal Sunday. So was it 2-0?
It was a 2-0 final. So
Okay.
Jordan Morris, Jordan Morris got injured like 4 minutes in, which is heartbreaking. I'll say, if I've never said it before, you won't meet a nicer, kinder, gentler human being. You can tell that his dad's a doctor because he has such a way about him, and he raises a lot of money for juvenile diabetes research. And I think the world of him as a player and as a human being. I hated seeing him go down early. They replaced him with Paulie Rothrock. If that name sounds familiar, it's because last year somebody asked Brian Schmetzer, the coach for Seattle, how nervous are you when you're about to face Lionel Messi? And he goes, well, they have to come here and deal with Paulie Rothrock, so why should I be nervous?
Yeah.
Paulie Rothrock, also known as Paulie Rockstar, I love that kid. If there was ever a Pablo Mastroeni player who's not on a Pablo Mastroeni roster, it's this guy. And if you haven't seen Rusnak's goal, it perfectly personifies or exemplifies exactly what I'm talking about. Ball's going out of bounds, and this guy is hard charging to get to it and keep it in bounds, turns around, puts in a perfect ball for Rusnak, who we all know is a beast in the air, right? He puts in a beautiful ball, and Rusnak perfectly places it for the opening goal. And then Rothrock scored the second goal later on in the match. I want to say like after the 80th minute.
Okay,
to give them the 2-0 win. But I'm excited to see Craig Weibel. I'm excited to see Freddie Juarez. I'm excited to see Rusnak. I know he divides the fan base. I love Rusnak, and I don't have time for people who don't, honestly. Miss me with that. I don't remember off the top of my head if Musovski is still on the team, but I like him too.
Yeah, he is. I do believe he is. So we are all excited. There's going to be probably, events at the stadium. Obviously, get there early. I'm going to be there. I don't know. I just want to be there. I would go tomorrow, and camp out. But really, I do think that this is going to be an exciting game. The weather, it's hard to say. Utah, so unpredictable. But the weather should be good for this game as well. A picture was going around Twitter. I don't know if you saw it, Maddie, but of the 2,000 extra seats that they're putting on north sides of the stadium. I don't want to confirm anything because, guys, I'm not an expert, but I do want to say I do not think that is what, and if you've seen this picture on Twitter, I do not think this is what we're going to see come match day. You can already see that they have some bars for shading, and I believe they're probably going to put some Real Salt Lake, I don't know, flags or whatever, banners around it. But I'm going to enter the stadium. I'm going to see how it looks. But, the front office, the ownership really does need to capitalize that Messi's coming into town, that this is a big year for soccer, not just for Real Salt Lake, but for the United States. So I do see why they're putting in 2,000 seats. And I hope that every time I go to the stadium, those 2,000 seats are filled. And we're making more money for the team. So the team can, the club can spend more money on the team. But Maddie, how do you feel going into this home opener with Seattle Sounders?
In honor of David James, I'd like to give a weather forecast. It's going to be 49 degrees during the day, 37 degrees at night.
Yeah.
So
it's
that
our
sounds
early
pretty good.
kickoff too. It's 5:30, which is pretty early for us.
I don't love that part of it, but I will say that I complained so much for the last 2 years about all of the matches being at 7:30 that it would be very hypocritical of me now to complain that they're staggering matches so that I can watch more than one match.
Okay.
So super excited for the match, super excited to see Seattle. I told Trey today that I was going to slap him if Seattle wins because he went on his podcast and said that Seattle hasn't won in Sandy since 2012. I was like, why would you say that, dude? You could say that next week. You don't say that when they're coming to town, especially when they're coming off a 2-0 win. And of course, I was leading up to it. As I looked at the schedule 2 weeks ago, I'm like, extra day of rest for RSL because RSL plays on Saturday in Vancouver and Seattle plays on Sunday. But guess what? RSL's plane was delayed, so they didn't get home on Saturday night. They got home on Sunday. So much for the extra day of rest. So much for the extra day of recovery.
No, for sure. When you saw that picture of the seats, I don't know. I'm not saying I'm wrong. Do you think it's going to look different come game day?
I do, and also I don't care.
Okay.
I don't have any bandwidth for that whole discourse. Like, This isn't the Cathedral. This isn't Wembley.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't even anything. It's a stadium that's been there for 15 years. It's not like this is sacrilegious. Bring in more seats, bring in more fans. Absolutely 100%. As I recall, forgive me, you may know this off the top of your head, but RSL got an award last year for tickets sold and for attendance over the course of the year. They were like one of 5 teams that hit over 95% in the entire league. The more seats there are, the cheaper those seats will be available to you. Okay. Maybe not when Messi's here. Maybe not when Mueller's here. Maybe not when insert player that you've been dying to see comes here.
Orlando.
As long as you didn't just say James Rodriguez, I'm okay with it. Whatever player you're super excited about, Timo Werner, okay. The more seats there are, the more affordable it's going to be for you. Okay. Right now, you are listening. Who do you know that is more of a U.S. men's soccer fan than me? Right? Flew to, I'm sure they're out there. I'm not like holding myself up. I'm just saying, like, I'm paying $1,000, $1,000 for one ticket to a World Cup game. Okay. One ticket, $1,000. It's ridiculous. Game? I think it's Paraguay.
I'll be there. We got to see each other there.
Perfect.
Man.
So you know what? We can all like rent one room for another $1,000. And then we can rent a bicycle and we'll all just like get jets. We'll get like ski tow ropes and one of us can pull the others.
Well, I already have a place. Like my family lives in LA, so I'm just going to stay with them, obviously. But
and your best friend, Maddie, of course.
Okay. I'll see.
And his friend, Steve.
Okay. I got to run it, but
we're skinny. We'll sleep on the floor.
That's great. But yeah, no, I got my World Cup tickets, I think, like 2 weeks. They didn't select me for the lottery, right as I heard that they didn't select me, I had to, cop up the money. But yeah, it's going to be a great time.
We applied for every lottery. My buddy Steve and I've talked about him before, that I go to MLS Cup final with every year. The guy who's always next to me in all the pictures, like trying to get out of camera. Great dude, solid player. I played with him down in Florida. And now he lives in New York City. Steve paid $500 to increase his fandom level with U.S. soccer. And it was that enabled him to get 2 tickets for one match at $750 a piece. But I told him, of course, I'm going to pay him half of the $500 that he spent to get us the ticket.
Yeah.
So,
no, but that's so.
Yeah. I got no problem with more stands. I got no problem with more fans. They've had standing room only games before. The only thing now is they're going to be concentrated. I think it's better. And I don't think that it's going to be like some weird half constructed thing just sitting out there for kids to play on, like a giant rusty jungle gym. They'll cover it up with tarps or they'll make it look pretty somehow. I'm not worried about it, and my panties are remarkably untwisted about it.
No, yeah.
But if it's what you want to get upset about, then go for it. I'm not telling other people how to fan.
Hey, I wasn't getting upset. I would just say this too, is that hopefully you always like knew that the sound was like going, like maybe we're like going to trap the sound in that north end a little bit more, so it's a little bit louder. That's actually a plus to me as well. But we do want to get into Seattle. Like you said, they are coming pretty, from a pretty good win. And they didn't do much in this offseason, but you can make the remark that they didn't really have to. They had a really good Leagues Cup run. They won it, and they are a really good Seattle team. And sometimes consistency is key. And a lot of these players that are playing for Seattle have been there for a long time. I don't even know how many years Rusnak's been there, but it's probably around like 4 or maybe even 5 now, which sounds crazy. But they have really, consistency is key for the Seattle Sounders. And I think that's what they're going on. They didn't change much. I know they got a U22 from Charlotte, I believe, and that was really their big, I would say, addition this offseason. But Maddie, what is your prediction? And then I'll go through all of our predictions for this upcoming Saturday match.
Well, I was going to say 2-1 RSL win, but it seems like that's what everyone else said.
You're joining the club. Okay. Do you want to be different?
No, because that's what I think is going to happen. I could say 1-1 just to be different, but I don't want to. I think RSL is going to get the win.
Sounds good. So yeah, if you can see our screen, we have LD, Maddie, Hayden, and David. we are all agreeing that it's going to be a 2-1 RSL win. The only person that didn't agree with us was Jimmy, and Jimmy put 3-1 RSL win, which, I mean, if the momentum is with us, I could see 3-1 as well. And I'll be rooting for that third goal. I wouldn't care losing this, game just for Jimmy to be right. But from last week's predictions of the Royal Riot, crew, Hayden is the only one with 1 point. So I predicted a draw. I think Maddie predicted a win. LD predicted a tie, and I was so close. I did 1-1. Just one goal, would have made the difference for me. Honestly, Hayden, he got on my case in the chat this weekend that I'm tracking, and I made the joke. He's only wanting me to do that because he is winning. So he is in the lead with 1 point and everyone else with 0. But what can we look forward to, Maddie, with this game? It's the home opener. There's so much excitement every home opener. I think you can feel it at, the stadium. I almost said Rio Tinto. Almost. So close. But
I still say it every time.
You can feel it. I remember that most home openers, we perform well. Then we have the 5-0 LAFC game that I would rather forget. But
so why don't you then?
Yeah, I should have. I shouldn't have mentioned it. But I'm looking forward to seeing all these new guys. I do think that we're going to see an attack that has more experience with, I believe, Morgan and Sanabria and whoever, it's day by day with a lot of these injuries. But what are you looking forward to, Maddie?
I want to see RSL score some goals.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see that on Saturday in Vancouver. I want to see it at home. I will tell you that I still remember the first time I was in the stadium and RSL scored a goal. And when people started singing Believe all around the stadium, I still remember how that made me feel. If I didn't cry, I certainly teared up. And that still gets me every single time I hear Believe, when everyone is singing it. And when RSL is playing well and they just start singing it out randomly, it always gets me in the feels and kind of takes me out of whatever I'm doing or writing or whoever I'm talking to at the time. It just takes me out of that moment and reminds me how much I love this stadium and this experience and this club and this sport and this life that we all get to live. It's just the absolute best. So I cannot wait. And if you see me, grab me, say hello.
Now, follow-up question, Maddie. Yes. Who scores the first goal of RS 2026 season?
It's a good one. I'm going to say Gozo.
You stole my answer.
Well,
yeah, you think Gozo?
I think Gozo because I think he's going to be in an advanced position. If I knew for sure that Morgan Yavogi was going to be playing, I would go with him. I mean, I'll be honest, and I'm not throwing rocks at anybody, but if Olatunji was playing against Vancouver, I think my prediction from last week would have been correct because I think Olatunji would have had at least a brace.
Now, okay, let's say Victor is out again. Would you start Gozo at the 9 and Dom as the right wing back, or would you maybe go again with Piol?
Yes, I would do what I said. I would put Gozo at the 9 and I would put Marchuk at wing back. I think that Dom maybe didn't show everything that he's capable of on Saturday in Vancouver. And I also think that it's harsh to judge a player based on what they do in sub minutes when they're playing with a bunch of other substitutes. And when everybody who's not a substitute is 60 or 70 minutes tired from running on that carpet. And even as I say that, I want to acknowledge for the people out in the audience who are screaming and clawing their faces. Yes, I know that if you're not a starter, that's when you have to show up. And that's when you have to show that the coaches are wrong and that you should be starting. But I just think that Dom plays better when he starts.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this as well. I'm really looking forward to seeing Booth again if Luna's not available, because I do think he's going to be surrounded by more experienced players like Sanabria. Now, okay, people, first off, they ripped me to shreds on my projected starting 11. So I'm not going to do another one, okay? I don't know. We are recording on a Monday. Anything can happen Friday night. So it wasn't that one, but I also did one on Twitter and everyone's like, that guy's unavailable. That guy's unavailable. And I was like, I heard that honestly, if they get a visa on Friday, that guy might fly out to Vancouver and start. But that didn't happen. A lot of the cards didn't go RSL's way this last weekend. But again, I do think if Sanabria starts, Booth could have potentially a good game. Gozo at the 9, Morgan as that right winger supporting striker role. And I do think Dom should get more minutes. For how much we talked him up, it was a little disappointing that he didn't start this last match because I did love seeing Dom come back into training. I love seeing his goals in preseason. You can really see that he wants to be here. So I do think that Aiden coming off the bench is not a horrible thing. That's something that I want to see pretty much throughout this year. Aiden Hazarkani getting minutes. I, for one, am seeing a Real Salt Lake win. It's going to be close. Seattle is a good team, but as you said, they might have some injuries. Also have probably going through some of the visa things. I don't think as much as us because they didn't really bring anyone in that wasn't inside the league already. Overall, I'm really excited for this home opener. Any last comments, Maddie?
I just want to make sure that at the end of the match, when they ask Pablo how he's doing, he says better than Brian.
Brian Spencer?
Yes, that's a joke for like 5 people. And I want you to know that you're my people. And I love that you got that since you seem to not been one of those 5. There was a pretty famous post-match stand-up where Seattle beat LAFC in, I think it was in the conference final, or maybe it was just like a match with playoff implications. And Bob Bradley had a full crash out. And this stand-up walks over to Schmetz, who's just one of the greatest dudes you'll ever meet in your life. And they're like, how you doing, coach? And he's like, better than Bob. Seattle fans had shirts made up, of course, because they did. That's what I would have done too. So yeah. I just hope RSL plays well. I thought they played. Pablo asked going into Vancouver all week when I spoke to him and the media spoke to him, and we asked him, what do you want to see on Saturday? The word he kept saying was bravery. I want to see bravery. I don't want the moment to be too big for these guys. We're going to have young guys because by then we knew there were injuries. I just want them to be brave. Make a proactive mistake, not a reactive mistake. And when you make a mistake, don't put your head down. Keep playing. And RSL did that. I was very happy with their performance. I want to see more of it on Saturday.
Yeah. No, please. You got to go. It's the home opener, everybody. If you're listening to this podcast and don't go, I understand that some people live far away. That's anything. If you are in the state of Utah, okay, if you are in our 5 corners, you have to be at that stadium, okay? It is going to be a great time. Now, please follow, subscribe. We are the Royal Riot. We are being more consistent with coming out every single Tuesday morning, even when our fearless leader, Hayden, is unavailable. And have an amazing day. Anything?
Also, the Monarchs are playing on Sunday, and I believe it's at 2:30. Nope, that's Central Time. I don't know why my phone won't kick in the Mountain Time.
Well, I'll just say this. Going to a Real Monarchs game is great. And also they were on like the Football Foodies account one of these days for one of I don't know what it was, but they had mac and cheese something that they served. And it got into this international account that just goes around and takes pictures of stadium's food. But Real Monarchs, those are the next guys that we'll see for the first team.
2:30 Mountain Time at Zions Bank Academy Stadium in Harriman. If you don't see me Saturday at the match, you'll definitely be able to see me on Sunday because there's not as many people there. Come up and say hello. Come support our Monarchs.
It's a great time. Okay. Thank you, Maddie. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Have a great week. Bye, guys.